Winters from the Lake County Regional Office of Education. Today I'm going to talk to you about the standards Illinois has adopted for 8th grade in the area of mathematics. Illinois is one of many states in our nation who have adopted these very same standards, and teachers all across the country are working hard to transition to these new expectations. This is a graphic that represents the language of the 8th grade standards. The words that are appearing larger are the words that appear most often in the standards. So you can see that 8th graders are going to be talking about linear equations and understanding and examples and association, because these words are appearing so often. These are the 3 critical topics for 8th grade. Use linear equations and systems of linear equations to represent, analyze, and solve problems. Translate among representations and partial representations of functions, and use ideas about distance and angles and ideas about congruence and similarity to describe and analyze two-dimensional figures and solve problems. As you can see, our 8th graders are going to be solving lots of problems. These are the units that 8th graders should be delving into this year. Rational numbers and exponents. Part of this unit is a study of irrational numbers, so that will help students have a better understanding of rational numbers. Also, they're going to be able to represent equations and expressions using exponents. The Pythagorean theorem applications will help them to use this theorem to apply for real-life problem solving. Linear relationships and functions. This is really delving deeply into algebra, and this has a few different layers to it. First of all, they'll look at multiple representations of both relations and functions. They'll look at modeling and the use of a line to represent change over time. And they'll study the systems of functions. Also, they'll be studying geometric figures. They'll be analyzing geometric figures in 2 dimensions and also in 3 dimensions. And finally, they will be studying statistical applications to help prepare them for real life. Now, how are our 8th graders going to spend their time? Well, they're going to be representing all of these ideas in a variety of different ways. One of those ways will be through the use of manipulatives and tools. 8th graders are going to be expected to use technology to represent their understanding using either virtual tools or graphing simulation programs, but they'll also have some tactile manipulative tools. For example, they may use algebra tiles or algebra blocks to represent their understanding. They may use tools like these angle legs plus, which will help them to represent triangles that have right angles to use the Pythagorean theorem. They'll also be able to use these tools to represent other angles, for example, parallel lines cut by a transversal and the relationship between those angles. They may use these kind of tools, which are 3-dimensional figures, and they have nets that they can use to create models for surface area and also to help them with volume. They may be using Cuisenaire rods to help them with demonstrating proportional relationships, or even fraction, decimal, percent equivalency towers that help them model the relationship between these rational numbers. They may be using dominoes or dice or cards to help them with their fluency between their operations. All of these different tools are going to help them develop a deeper understanding, and then we'll see them use these models to develop visual models. They're going to be able to create graphs from their manipulative models and simulated models on the computer. And they'll take those graphs and be able to translate those into tables, charts, and also equations, expressions, inequalities to represent some of the relationships. We'll want our 8th graders to be using a lot of language to discuss and analyze the relationship between all of these different representations. We want them to be able to read, write, speak, and listen about the content that they are studying. This is a lot deeper level of understanding than we experienced when we were in 8th grade. And finally, the most importantly, we will be asking our 8th graders to represent using real-life contexts. But these are not just in isolation. One of the key ideas of this whole process is that we want them to see the interconnectedness between these representations. So we may give them a representation of a graph and ask them to translate that graph into a table, chart, equation, into a manipulative model or a real-life simulation so that they can fluidly transfer between those different modes of representation. That's where we can see their deep level of understanding. As you can see, 8th graders are really delving into the beginning of algebra, and this is the gateway subject for college and careers. I hope that you are as excited about the level of understanding that our children will be able to develop using these new standards as I am, and I'm sure that your child's teacher is going to be anxious to begin this transition as